Is intermittent fasting the secret to losing weight during perimenopause? If you're going through perimenopause, just like me, you may know the frustration of just waking up and feeling like your body just isn't the same. And why does losing the extra pounds just seem so impossible? Well, listen up, gorgeous. Today I'm dishing the secret to intermittent fasting and perimenopause. I'm going to share the top 5 benefits of intermittent fasting alongside the top 5 downsides you need to know so that you can make the right choice for you. And be sure to stay to the end, where I share what kind of intermittent fasting I actually recommend and personally do. Hey gorgeous, it's Ashanthi. I help women get back to feeling amazing in their bodies over 40. And if you want to learn how to drop the hormonal weight gain over 40, then grab my Fat Loss Over 40 guidebook. I've linked it below. Now, by the way, if you don't actually know what perimenopause is and what's happening to your body during this time, go and watch my video on everything you need to know about perimenopause here, or save it and watch it later. So back to perimenopause and intermittent fasting. Is it helpful or is it harmful? Intermittent fasting is simply cycling between periods of eating and not eating. For many women over 40, it can be an effective way of losing weight, gaining more energy, and supporting hormonal health. By cycling between periods of eating and fasting, it can actually help perimenopausal women in the following 5 ways. First, intermittent fasting can help with digestive issues. Intermittent fasting gives your digestive system a break by limiting the time that you eat, therefore reducing the demand on your digestive system and freeing up your body to do other essential things. Now, this can be huge for some women who especially suffer from bloating, constipation, and digestive issues in general, which often crop up in your 40s as a result of low stomach acid and microbiome or gut issues as a result of the hormonal changes you're going through. Next, intermittent fasting can help with controlling blood sugar levels and insulin sensitivity. Intermittent fasting can help with how your cells respond to the hormone insulin, which is important for blood sugar control and fat storage. Better insulin sensitivity may help reduce the risk of type 2 diabetes. When estrogen levels decrease, which is typically towards the menopausal years, and especially after menopause, this leads to insulin resistance, which promotes weight gain. I would highly recommend check out my perimenopause weight gain explained video. It goes through all of this. Number 3 benefit, intermittent fasting can also help to reduce inflammation in the body. This is one of the sneaky saboteurs of weight gain and energy depletion for women over 40. But intermittent fasting has actually shown to decrease the levels of an inflammatory marker called CRP, otherwise known as C-reactive protein, which is a protein made by the liver. The level of CRP increases in the body as inflammation increases. So it's a really great inflammatory marker that you can actually easily test with a blood test. It's important to note that lower inflammation is linked to lower risk of disease and improved health. Now, fourthly, and this one is probably one that you are most interested in, intermittent fasting can also help with weight loss. Studies show that people can lose between 3 to 8% of their body weight over a period of 3 to 24 weeks. Basically, during periods of intermittent fasting, you force your body to rely on fat stores for fuel. Over time, this can result in weight loss if calorie intake is also reduced, and can be particularly helpful if stubborn belly fat is an issue for you. Now, you need to make sure that you are eating the right types of foods for your body, and you're fasting for long enough so you get the benefits of autophagy. This is basically where your body taps into fat stores and releases ketones. The important thing to note is there is no point to fasting if you are just eating crap and adding more inflammation to your body. Check out my video on how I drastically changed my diet during perimenopause for some helpful tips. And the 5th, and probably the most important, is that it helps with autophagy. Autophagy is a natural process that occurs as your body clears out and replaces damaged cell parts with new ones. Although autophagy occurs naturally throughout your body, there are ways that you can actually speed it up. Switch your body from sugar burning to fat burning. When you do this, you not only have greater weight loss, but also, like I said, dive into those really great cellular benefits of intermittent fasting. Now that we know the top 5 benefits of intermittent fasting, let's discuss the downsides of intermittent fasting, especially for us women over 40. Now, the first negative of intermittent fasting is that it can actually exacerbate hormonal issues. As you know, perimenopause is indicative of significant hormonal changes, especially in estrogen and progesterone, which are our sex hormones. Now, fasting induces a stress response in the body, which might actually exacerbate these fluctuations in estrogen and progesterone, leading to irregular menstrual cycles, heightened mood swings, and increased hot flashes. So for a woman who is already experiencing these symptoms, they could just be made worse through the stress that your body undergoes when you are intermittent fasting, and can be an even greater disruption to your physical and your mental well-being. Number 2 downside of intermittent fasting is its effect on bone health. Now, we know that estrogen plays a crucial role in maintaining bone density. And as estrogen levels decline through perimenopause and menopause, women become more susceptible to bone loss and osteoporosis. Fasting, if not done properly, could potentially compromise the nutrients essential for bone health, such as calcium and vitamin D. A woman with a history of bone health issues or osteoporosis might find that fasting worsens her bone density and overall musculoskeletal health. Now, the third downside of intermittent fasting is its effect on decreasing energy levels and slowing down metabolism. During perimenopause, when energy levels are already declining thanks to those hormonal changes, fasting may exacerbate the feelings of fatigue and sluggishness, and you might become more irritable and anxious as a result of that. So carrying out those simple daily tasks and exercise might be just more challenging. If exercise is something that you are wanting to focus on, intermittent fasting might not help with that because your energy is just going to be less. Now, the fifth downside is actually nutrient deficiency, particularly if you're not able to consume sufficient essential nutrients during that restricted eating window. For instance, a woman who might be having heavier periods as a result of perimenopausal symptoms might be lower in iron. And if you can't take enough iron-rich foods during your eating window, you might experience worsening anemia symptoms and poor immune function. So as you can see, it's important to note that individual responses to fasting can vary widely, and what might be suitable for one woman might not be suitable for another. I consider each woman's unique health history, their hormonal profile, and goals before recommending any dietary approaches, including fasting during perimenopause. If you desire to get back to feeling amazing in your body over 40, don't forget to download my Fat Loss Over 40 guidebook. I've linked it below, and it's probably the best place to start. Now that you know how intermittent fasting can be helpful or harmful for us perimenopause women, let's discuss my top fasting protocols for women over 40 and how they could possibly work for you. First up, we have the 12-12 method. Now, this is arguably the easiest method to start with. You basically fast for 12 hours and you've got an eating window of 12 hours. For example, you can stop eating at 8 p.m. after dinner and resume eating again 12 hours later at 8 a.m. This gentle approach lets your body slowly adapt to a shorter fasting window, whilst the bulk of fasting is actually done whilst you're asleep. Next, we have the 14-10 method. This pushes your fasting out a little bit more to 14 hours and gives you an eating window of 10 hours. For instance, if you stop eating at 8 p.m. again after dinner, you can start resuming eating at around midday the next day. This method still allows ample time to consume your food during the day, but provides the extra fasting benefits with a little bit extra fasting window. It's so important to remember that intermittent fasting isn't just a way of restricting calories. You still need to eat enough for your body's metabolic needs, and especially if you have performance goals. I prefer to look at it from a health perspective, where you're able to give your body a break, better digestion, improved insulin sensitivity, and autophagy. Next up, we have the 16-8 method. Now, this is actually one of the most popular methods when it comes to intermittent fasting. The 16-8 method involves fasting for 16 hours and having an eating window of 8 hours. For example, you might stop eating at 8 p.m. again after dinner and resume eating at noon the next day. And you can actually shift the 8-hour window of eating based on your lifestyle. So if having dinner with the family is a non-negotiable, you'll want to make sure that your eating window for that particular meal falls within that 8-hour window. Next up, we have the 5-2 diet. Now, this method is a little bit more advanced, and it involves limiting your calories to 500 or 600 calories for 2 consecutive days of the week. And for the other 5 days, you just eat normally. So you might choose to eat a breakfast and a lunch, or a lunch or a dinner, just based on how you generally like to eat. And you're keeping your calories probably between 300 calories per meal twice a day for those consecutive 2 days. Next up, we have alternate day fasting. And as the name suggests, this involves fasting every other day. The way it works is that on fasting days, you actually limit your calories to about 500 or 600 calories for that day. And on feeding days, you can eat normally. Now, this method of fasting can actually be quite challenging for women during perimenopause due to fluctuating energy levels as a result of those changing hormones. And my advice is to only try this once you've actually gone through the previous fasting protocols that I've already explained. Personally, I would only recommend using this type of fasting once every quarter for a week, or maybe every month for a week, but only if fasting has now become part of your lifestyle. Always start slowly and modify as needed. Okay, lucky last, we've got the 24-hour fasts. You can choose to either make your fasting window like breakfast to breakfast, lunch to lunch, or dinner to dinner. So you're basically eating daily, but only once a day. People often do this type of fasting for 2 to 3 days in the week. And my recommendation is to do it in your follicular phase as a woman over 40. Now, I've said this before, it's important to know that intermittent fasting does not work for everyone. If you are wanting to try intermittent fasting to lose some weight, bear in mind that other factors could also be contributing to your weight gain, and intermittent fasting is not a one-stop solution. Factors like the type of food that you're eating, whether you have hormonal imbalances, disordered sleep patterns, high stress levels, and your ability to exercise all have an impact on how much weight you gain or lose at any stage of your lifespan, but especially during perimenopause. Now, personally, I follow the 16-8 method for fasting, but I only do it in the first 10 to 14 days of my cycle, where I'm trying to optimize my estrogen levels in that first half of my cycle called the follicular phase. From day 14 onwards, we want to start optimizing progesterone. And progesterone is actually less forgiving when it comes to fasting. Think of estrogen as the extrovert and progesterone as the introvert. Estrogen can deal with challenging situations. Progesterone really needs to be nourished and nurtured. So in the second half of my cycle, I'm not fasting. Fasting is a stress on the body, and when we're going through our cycle, in the second half especially, we want to reduce the stress on our body. Higher stress is higher cortisol is higher insulin sensitivity, and that's what we want to avoid. Your body's not going to lose weight if it is stressed and inflamed. I find that this method works really well for my clients who are cycling and who are not cycling. And if you're not cycling, you can either choose to just start the fast in the first half of the month, just to make it easier for you. Now, if I desire to dive a bit deeper and really reap those benefits of autophagy, I would schedule a week of 5 to 2 fasting every 3 months in the first half of my cycle, or even try a 24-hour fast for 2 to 3 days in the first week of my cycle. I want to also mention that I'm not exercising like I usually would when I am doing these deeper fasts. I would recommend going for short walks and doing stretching and mobility to keep my body moving and also supple. The truth is, we are so individual and we need to be patient with ourselves, especially when it comes to weight loss over 40. Having a healthy diet that is high in anti-inflammatory foods, trying to reduce the amount of stress that you have in your everyday life, and really setting boundaries around work, family, and friend commitments to really support your own self-care and do the things that are going to make you happy and fulfilled. Supplementing as needed because we can't get everything from our diets. Focusing a little bit on intermittent fasting can also reap the benefits of repairing these damaged cells and getting you healthier at a cellular level. If you need support, come work with me and together we'll find what works for you. I've linked some ways in the description box below. So that's it for today's video. If you want to hear more about all things health, hormones, fitness, and feeling fabulous over 40, don't forget to subscribe to get notified. And if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.